Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next episode of The Female Fist. I have such an exciting guest with us today. I've been really looking forward to meeting her at some point this year. Her name is Kate Hastings, and she is the Masters World Champion in Jiu Jitsu. So please give a warm welcome. I'm so excited to have a great conversation with her. How are you doing, Kate?
Hey girl, thank you so much for having me on your show.
No, thank you so much for joining us. So I have to ask, you know, you're world champion. This is who you are. You've been there, you've done that, you've gone to the competitions, you've been through the routine, you've been through all the highs and lows. But why did you choose to take this route in combat sports? Like, why was this something that you chose to do instead of, let's say, volleyball or soccer?
It fell into my lap. Someone invited me to a women's self-defense class, and I had no idea what it was. And I was actually very compelled to continue after that class. I was like, what is this? This is so much fun. It's hands-on. And I naturally adapted pretty well to it. I mean, some people don't really like that physical touch or to be, under pressure. And I felt like compelled to want to figure out more. And they were like, oh, this is jujitsu. And I've never heard of jujitsu. So I went to a bunch of different schools and I found my home I've been training there for the last 8 years at Fight Sports Miami. It's a top school, one of the top 10 schools in the country. So that's pretty amazing. And I just fell in love with it. I took my first class. Either you love it or you hate it. You have to love it, right? Because if you don't love it, you won't continue because it's so challenging mentally and physically. I love the mental aspect of it. I love the mental challenge that it takes to show up every day, to suck, to endure, and to develop your skill sets in such a way that eventually you start evolving just by showing up and just by not giving up. And I think that jujitsu is an amazing metaphor of life. And there's no end to it. So I love the community of it. I love the physical challenge of it. I love the evolution. I love the creativity of the sport and what it's evolved to. So, I mean, I just fell in love with it. I mean, everyone should try it. And if you'll see, I see people who stay for, a year, 10 years, 20 years, 6 years, but it really just depends on your personality. And if you really like that route of physical abilities.
That's really beautiful. And I love how you kind of like explained how you either love it or you hate it. And because of that, like because of how much it takes to bring out a certain side to you, because what you just said about the whole, it's the mental aspect that you love. And that's a true high performance athlete because it's that thrill of constantly challenging yourself, constantly trying to be better, constantly trying to overcome your obstacles. I say to everybody all the time, like, this is why I'm so happy to have you because you're in jujitsu. And I always have boxers or somebody that's related to boxing. But it's the same in a sense where, like, as a fighter, to have to dig deep inside yourself and push through those challenging moments through the training, it's the same thing. You have to love it or you hate it. It's one or the other because if you don't love it, like, you're going to get hurt, you're going to not get what you can out of it. You're not going to get a world championship, that's for sure.
And they also, the part of jujitsu, it gave me a second chance at learning. So being in an environment where teacher student, growing up, education and the school system, it was really hard to learn in my experience. And jujitsu gave me that second chance to say, yeah, I could learn, I could focus, I could progress. And I did naturally sometimes there's people who are more, could be more instinctive in jujitsu when you first start. And I was, when I was, just starting out, instinctively, I knew how to kind of move and fight. Not that I was good by any means, but there's some people who just don't have the coordination. And I never discovered my physical abilities. I had no confidence growing up. I never played sports. So jujitsu really gave me that, the ability to focus too. So it develops so much more than just your physical body. That's the last thing you're thinking about, like, getting in shape. It's like you get in shape whether you want to or not.
Yeah, of course. Especially if you're going as much as you were. And also too, so you say you didn't grow up with sports. So like in your household, were either of your parents athletes or like
No, no one was in.
no, nothing like that. See, that's so interesting how you have this, as you mentioned, it's like, okay, you didn't really see it as like, oh, I'm just good at this naturally, but you found it easier to learn through your physical motor skills. And even though you didn't come from, let's say, an athletic background, here you are right now, a world champion doing what you do because something inside you is like, no, this is for me.
Yeah, the physical aspect of movement really changed my mental abilities, and I think we could push ourselves physically and transform our mind through that, and that's how it's been for me as far as a coach and someone in jujitsu. So that's
And do you find that when you're coaching people, do you find that it's because, for example, for me, I enjoy coaching people. I haven't been able to coach anybody in a competition yet. I enjoy coaching people, but I still have that, I'd say, selfish part of me where I still need to focus in my head, like my own training. Like, obviously, I prioritize myself and my training because I'm active in competition. Do you find that you have like those kinds of feelings with coaching as well, where it's like you enjoy coaching, but you still love being coached first and foremost?
yeah. I mean, I'll coach my teammates when we're at competitions, but as far as like my profession as being a personal trainer, it's it plays hand in hand. So yeah, it's just who I am. I feel
Right.
like I am a coach, so that there's no there's no time in between it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It's just a part of me. So yeah, no, I just find it easy to want to encourage and to give back because it's given me so much. The sport has given me more than I could even begin to explain. And that's what I want to share with other people.
How was your family like during this time, like during this 8-year journey that now that you're a world champion, like how was your family in supporting? Like, were they surprised when you wanted to do jujitsu? Like, how was it?
No, because I always loved roughhousing. I always loved, it's funny because I could never sit down. I was always active. I was always like wanting to like wrestle. I always loved the physical sensory input of that. So, and my friends, when we were younger, I'd always like be wanting to like throw people around. So it just made sense. People were like, you should have been doing this a long time ago. So,
Well, here you are now anyway. So, but
yeah.
yeah, you know what? I guess that makes sense, right? Because people who are, well, kids, I should say, when they're comfortable, like even though you said you didn't do sports when you were a kid, it sounds like you were still comfortable using your body. You were very comfortable with the physical touch. Like that was basically what you gravitated towards, anyways, was the touch.
Yes, yes.
Funny, it's funny. So, you know what? So your family, I'm assuming, was pretty supportive though.
Yeah, yeah. They were just like, that karate thing for a long time. My brother is really supportive of, jujitsu. He understands it and thinks it's awesome. And my mom and dad, they support whatever I do. So
That's beautiful. That's wonderful to hear that you had like a full team behind you, right? And 8 years ago when you started, of course, women in combat sport was a very different culture 8 years ago. How did you find how you started and then coming into where we are now, which we're pretty evolved for women in combat sport overall? So how was it for you 8 years ago compared to now?
when I started at Fight Sports, there was literally maybe 4 girls in the academy, and now we have, I don't know even know how many girls. So it's different, right? To train with guys than to train with girls. So it's a different type of training. It's a different type of physical input when you train with a guy. And I think that it's beautiful that this sport has evolved so much into women, you know, at the level of the professional athletes. But the one thing about jiu-jitsu is that there will always be more men. It's a sport that it's male dominant, just like I'm sure boxing is. And there are some badass girls in jiu-jitsu, like incredible girls, that it's become more embraceable to do men's sports, and to be in the same field as them, and it's come a really long way. The sport has come a long way. I mean, back in the day when it started, no girls trained
Right.
jujitsu. Like, no girls were in jujitsu. So
So that
the
must be really
level,
like a breath of fresh air too, as more girls came in and more talent for you to even work with.
yeah. And at Fight Sports Miami, I mean, some of the best, were some of the best girls come and train at that academy, and it's great to constantly be challenged and evolved through, you know, training with such high level athletes.
I cannot wait to physically go and see your academy because I really look forward
Yes.
to, like, honestly, I really, really respect you and I really admire what you do. So I'm really excited to meet you in person. But until then, I wanted to ask you, because going into world championships, of course, that's not a joke. Of course, it's not just like any tournament. That's, that's, you're a world champion. So walking into there, every fighter has like their own kind of ritual. Everybody kind of does like their own thing to focus and get ready and prepared. When I was speaking to our mutual friend Ali Rosen, she mentioned to me that she was doing I guess it's a form of psychotherapy, right?
Yeah, EMDR.
EMDR. And could you say, I can never say the full word. Can you tell everybody what that is again?
It's eye movement. It's eye movement.
Eye
I
movement.
forgot.
Yeah. Okay. See.
Oh,
Okay.
geez.
So EMDR, the
EMDR.
psychotherapy. So when you were first introduced to that, like, was that like your first go-to form of psychotherapy that you did going into like a tournament, or like what kind of therapies did you kind of use going into this high-level tournament?
That was the first
Yeah.
that I did with Ali, the EMDR. I've done, and I came across EMDR even before she got certified, and I'm always curious. Just as much, I'm just as much passionate as mental health as I am physical health. So I'm always looking at alternative ways to improve my mind and my ability to expand that part of us. Because I think, you know, it starts in our head, and then we're physically able
Beautiful.
to do things. Yeah. And I was like curious about this EMDR, and then she got certified, and then she, you know, was practicing on all of us, and you know, she really got to my negative core belief, which was I'm not capable, or it doesn't matter, I don't matter. And through that therapy, you know,
Oh, you're I can't hear you.
oh no,
Oh, there you go. There you go. I
okay.
hear you. Sorry, say it again. So you said you felt like you're not worthy.
Oh yeah, no. So with the EMDR going into it, Ali was really great at targeting what my negative core belief was, and was like around not mattering, or not being capable. And that core belief runs a big part of your life. And so going into that competition, having done the EMDR, reprogramming that subconscious belief, like I went in like a new person into that competition. And that was the first competition I ever won. Really.
God.
I always got second place. I've never placed first.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe like one other time. I mean, I've won super fights before, but I've never placed first in an actual tournament. Just maybe one time in almost 8 years. So that was huge, because that was like a big reflection on, it was like more my mental health than my physical abilities. So
Of course. We always talk about this, my coach and I. It's like when you get to these types of tournaments, like national championships, Olympic champs. Sorry, we have a little friend here.
okay.
National championships, Olympic championships. You're meeting with other athletes that are training just as hard as you. You're both at your physical best in that moment. Hopefully this person is putting that work in. And when you come there, most of the time, if it's not the skill, if it's not the style, and most of the time, it's like 80% who wants it more, who's more like willing to fight just that little extra harder for it. So yeah, I totally resonate with that. And that's amazing that EMDR really did that like powerful influence on you. How many sessions would you say that you did? Because I remember Ali said that like you could even see or feel results within even just one or two.
Yeah, I think I did 2 with her.
Oh, really?
I initially did it with another therapist 3 times, around like you pick a situation each and every single time uh, around that core belief. So I did a lot of things from my childhood with another therapist, and then Ali got certified, and I did some things with her around you know, more stuff. Everything all comes from our childhood, really. So you address our childhood, and I did about 3 sessions with her. So that was really it. And like you said, like I went into it like a different person. Like I had a different hunger within me because
Wow.
that subconscious belief that, you know, it didn't matter, you know, because when it doesn't matter, it's like either you go there and if you win, great. If you lose, it's okay. It doesn't really matter, you know, but when you go in there, like, this is mine, you know, even like you could go in there and say like, oh, this is mine. But man, if that subconscious belief is still running the show, or if it's still very present in you, which I didn't really realize that was running a lot of my losses, that, you know, it's incredible. I highly recommend it to everyone.
Yeah, I actually, that's one thing that when I head down there, I really want to do that with you ladies is the EMDR,
Yeah.
or EMR, EM.
Yeah, I mean, it's called eye movement. I know that's the first two.
Okay, so
So it's
EMDR.
a,
Okay,
yeah, it's a bilateral stimulation between either a light or vibration in your hands, and it stimulates the left brain and the right brain, and you go back to a traumatic experience with the negative core belief, and through a therapist and the stimulation of your brain being the bilateral stimulation, then it's able to reprogram. So I can't go into too much detail, but you know, Ali could. And
yeah, she did, and like it was just super, super interesting, super incredible. Hard for me just to take it in on one full mouthful. So as you talk,
yeah.
about it, it's like I'm remembering. It's like, yeah, that's right. Like I'm really looking forward to experiencing that. So you did this, and you said that that was the first type of therapy you did. Did you do other kinds of psychotherapies going into that tournament?
No, just that one.
Okay, okay. And so now post that, you know, I watch you, you look incredible, you take beautiful photos, and I can see you're still working hard, you're still plugging away, you're doing your thing. I also noticed that you went to Peru, and I don't know, was that this past year or
Yeah, this was in end of February.
end of February? So you went there and you did this journey. Now I've heard about one of these kinds of retreats before, but how do you say it? It's the
Ayahuasca.
ayahuasca. Now, funny because my coach from Strong Athlete, Gay 10, he actually was just telling me about this ritual, I think last week. Say it again. How do you say it again?
Ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just telling me about that. So, can you please tell me how you learned about it and like why you decided to do this retreat and what it is exactly?
So I started to get into it's like plant medicine in 2018. I started microdosing psilocybin mushrooms. I don't know if do you know what that is?
I do.
Okay, so
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 maybe
I
explain for everybody just,
yeah, so it's ultimately a very small dose of a micro magic mushroom, you know, shrooms, I guess you could say. People relate more to that word. And taking small doses of it, like a tenth of a gram, point, you know, three, which is very, very, very small. You cannot go into a hallucinating or have visuals. And that had such a tremendous impact in my life, as far as antidepressants or medicine was never an option for me. So I always sought out my food, my exercise, and other types of therapy. And I came across listening to this guy, Aubrey Marcus. You know who he is?
I haven't heard of him. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he talks all about plant medicine, and I listened to his podcast, and I was just so curious as to like, oh, this small mushroom could make this much of an impact. And it did. It really improved the quality of my life. And so I just started going on down the rabbit hole with plant medicine and alternative therapies to help your mental health, and learn about these small doses of psychedelics that really help people with PTSD, depression, anxiety, and using it to your advantage. So that was the beginning of my journey, and that was like in 2018. And I'm someone, I don't even smoke, I don't drink, so I really don't like to feel out of my body in general. And so then I've been listening to things about ayahuasca and educating myself. And then this past February, I was really struggling inside of a relationship with someone, and I said, and I knew it was coming from my childhood, and that's where a lot of my you know, a lot of my inner turmoil comes from. And there's so much, I believe there's so much therapy you could do, right? There's so much talk therapy, there's so much exercise, there's so much food. I've done everything, I felt like, you know, to like physically and mentally feel better. And there's this part of me that there's just trauma that's stuck in my body. And I just said, screw it, I'm going to Peru. This is like my last chance to experience myself inside of relationships, not only with a man, but within myself.
Right.
And so that was the most tremendous experience of my life. It's life changing on a whole nother level. I say it's like 10 years of therapy in 10 days. So I did 4 ayahuasca ceremonies led by a shaman. These people have been doing this type of work since they were young. So they've been drinking this tea since they were younger. And it ultimately it's a bark and a leaf brewed together. Separately, they don't create any sort of psychoactive, like, hallucinogenic symptoms, but together they do create this. And it has a tremendous healing on your nervous system, your subconscious mind. I mean, this could be like a whole podcast just about that. It's kind of hard to say in short terms, like how it was, but it tremendously impacted the quality of my life. I died there, like the ego part of me died. I witnessed myself outside of my mind. And I mean, it's just an experience. It's like going to another planet. You have to go yourself to really understand, but the impact that it's had in my life, it's shedded everything that once ever held me back, So it's really indescribable if you haven't done it, but the healing of my, depression or anxiety or PTSD, it's still working through me, and it doesn't heal you. It shows you everything. And then you have the choice moving forward, how you're going to live your life and who you're going to be moving forward.
Would you say it kind of creates more of like a grounding within yourself? Like once you have that awareness?
Yeah, because now you get a choice, right? Because there's times when you didn't know better, right? And you never saw yourself outside of yourself, because we're always so in our bodies, we're so in our minds that we never get that break to see ourselves outside of ourselves, right? Because we live within our head and our body. That's just what humans are.
Yeah.
So it's created a grounding. It's created a starting point, and it ultimately created a new beginning for myself, if that's really what it is, because I don't have that old skin of mine that was, my nervous system and my traumatic experiences from my childhood and my teenage years and even up into my adult years. It's not present within my body anymore,
That's beautiful. And I'm so happy that you've worked through that. And thank you for sharing that too, just publicly. Like, I really appreciate that. It's like, it sounds like I can even hear it in your voice. Like it comes from your heart. Like you really mean it. Like it's changed you as a person. I love that you've taken that journey and that you feel better holistically. I guess that's what it is, right? It's holistic wellness. It's holistic healing.
Yeah, it's I'm a stand for mental health. I think we're so physically focused on our bodies and our physical abilities, which I think is great, but I think that we lose touch with where that begins, and that's in our mental health. And I think so many people are struggling out there. Either they don't have the resources, or they're scared, or they're just following what the doctor's order said, which is, go on medicine. And if that's someone's choice, that's someone's choice. But there are other ways to heal yourself, and you don't have to live a life triggered by traumas and continuously living through your past emotions. So I'm passionate. I'm more passionate about that than really anything, is to share my story. And because other people shared their stories, and it made me think, wow, if they could do it, I could do it. And let me tell you, it's not easy. It's really not easy. I have a podcast on it. It's called The Trip Within, and it's an hour and a half long, and I really go into detail about my experience and the things that I saw, and the things that ayahuasca showed me. Because they say she doesn't give you what you want, she gives you what you need. And I went there to heal my inner child, and it's mind blowing what the combination between a plant, a bark, and a leaf could do, and people, I always say, like, oh, like if a little bit of mushroom could help your depression, or you go do ayahuasca, it could cure all your PTSD. And people are like, oh no, I would never do that. But the back of their pills say suicide, or
Yep.
you eat things that are full of chemicals.
Yep.
And, you know, I want to be a voice to people and say, hey, like, open your mind. There are other options. There are other ways. And you don't have to live this life full of just chemically altering your brain.
Yes. And I
I,
totally agree with you.
yeah, I was like, I was struggling so much within this relationship, and it was just highlighting so many of my things that were not healed within me. And I said, screw it, I'm done. I don't want to experience that. I want to go face it, because whether we like it or not, we face things each and every day within our head, within our mind, and we try to suppress it, or we try to ignore it, or we try to put it in something else. Like, you know, even training, I've overtrained before because I'm like, oh, I got to focus on this, I got to do this, and you ignore the things that are really happening and what's really important. And I said, I want a better quality of life. I don't want to live by the experiences of my past and my emotions that still, you know, run the show. So
That's
that's
really
why I watched it.
beautiful way that you put everything. And I resonate so much with you because I've said it many times open on my podcast. Like everybody knows that, you know, I don't train with my father anymore. I have a new team. Like I train with Mandy Bujold, right, current Olympian. She's off in Tokyo right now. You know, all these things. I'm very proud. I always put that out there.
Girl.
Yes, yeah, go girl. But you know, when you say like you were overtraining and you were trying to deal with things physically and trying to, and you block out what you're feeling emotionally because you think like, I need to stay present with what I'm physically feeling because
Mm-hmm.
I need to be this, you know, athlete or get to this certain point or reach a certain mark in my training. And then you lose sight of what's actually going on. It wouldn't even be this hard for you if you didn't have all this back whispers going on in your head. Because I even found like, it's funny actually because my teammates they always say to me, "You're only training a couple times a week." They well, right now, yeah, because I don't want to burn out if there's no tournaments going on right now. In like they're gonna open things up here in Toronto. We're in stage 3, I think tomorrow. But currently, like until this point, like we've had no competitions for over a year. We've had nothing. Like we can't go to the gyms. There's no sparring allowed. In Mandy's case, because she's an Olympian, she has some exemptions, obviously, because she's getting ready for the games. But otherwise, like, yeah, obviously I'm not going to overtrain even on my own because I have nothing coming up, but I have lost so much weight and I have improved so much in my training going only 2 3 times a week, whereas in my previous, I'd say, version of myself, I used to train 6 times a week. Like 3 of those days were double training, which I would do anyways leading into a tournament, but it was the kind of training it was. It was just burning myself out, just burning out all of my, you know, my body, my mind. And I didn't realize now that I'm training significantly less and I've improved, but it's because of taking all of that garbage out of your head and removing yourself from like a toxic environment and what a crazy impact it has. Like I'm still being surprised. Like I've lost now. I usually used to walk around at like 126, 127, and I compete at 118.8. I'm now walking around at like 121. And when you're like this small already, like that's a big difference for your body.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
it's just crazy. So I totally resonate with what you're saying. And I've even like considered these kinds of holistic wellness as myself because I think you're right. Like this is so important for people to understand that the prescriptions that they give you, the food that we're eating that are coming from like you know, not
Genetic modified freaking whatever.
exactly. That's your body, which ultimately affects your mind, how you think, how you process everything. And yeah, like I think I'm so happy that you just shared all that because I totally resonate with that. I think that more people need to hear and understand that.
Yeah, it comes back to saying like 2018, I burned out. Like I physically, mentally burnt out, and I was eating very healthy. I was training like a mad woman, but I was in a very toxic relationship and ignoring all those things and just putting my feelings into training. I mean, I was at that time I was Olympic weightlifting as well as training jujitsu, and both of those things hand in hand. Like I burnt out. I mean, I got my max squat was like 310, 310 pounds. And I remember after that, I was just depressed. I wasn't even happy. Jiu-jitsu, I was just like showing up. but I was like, I kept showing up. I thought doing more, I thought doing, that it would somehow like validate my worthiness and it would make me feel better, but eventually your body can only take so much, your body could only endure so much. Between weightlifting and jujitsu, it's a very taxing sport. And that's why I'm so passionate about mental health, because you could eat everything right. You could train, you could do all this, but it's too much of anything isn't good. Too much of one way isn't good. Too much of working out isn't good. Too much of being too much about eating healthy. It's like all about finding that balance within yourself. And what do you really want? And what's really driving the show here? Like, are you running from that little fat girl that used to be, or are you running from, or are you like walking towards being an empowering woman? There's things I think we're running from, and there's things we're going to move forward to. But I think when we're running from something, the results aren't going to be what you really want. So.
And when you also say, the fact of toxic relationships, I think that's always been such a taboo topic for women in sports, because I think it's always been put so much pressure on us, like, don't have a boyfriend, don't be around like boys, you're supposed to focus. It's like as if guys don't have girlfriends when they're in sports. They do, like we're all human, right? But they always kind of make this almost like extra pressure. I know I used to feel, because I've had my share of really bad toxic relationships too. And I used to feel when I was trained, like, oh, it's my fault because if I just listened and just didn't, have a relationship and not talk to people, if I just didn't talk to people, if I would just come to the gym and just be a robot, then I wouldn't feel like this right now. But at the same time, like, we're all human. So of course you're going to meet people. Of course, like if you meet somebody, you have feelings or whatever the case is, whatever. And when you say like toxic relationship, it's like, yeah, that's a very real thing. Cause a lot of, I find female athletes try to hide that. They try to hide that they have somebody in the picture because they don't want to seem like they're weak or that somebody is affecting them like that. It's like you have to be this rock like the men or something.
For sure. I think it's finding that balance too within that person. If that person was your number one fan and that person really supported you and that person really uplifted you, then I find that there should be no reason for you not to have a relationship, but I didn't choose those type of relationships. So.
But I mean, like, all of us, I think that we've all been through like something of some form, right? In some way, like, God, I have a whole list.
Yeah, but it comes back to like health is not just like working out and eating. Yeah. I was supplements, IVs. I mean, in 2018, at that point, I was doing everything you would consider healthy, but I was in a really bad relationship and that destroyed everything. Right. Yeah. So it's like finding that balance and creating your health as a whole versus this is just one component. That's where people lose themselves because they're like, I'm just going to work out. And that classifies me as healthy. And it's like, no, I mean, that's great. Make strides towards physically moving your body. But there's this whole other picture called like your mental health, your spiritual health, your relationships, the relationship with yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's where my coaching is leading more towards.
That's amazing. Yeah. And like moving forward, because like now that you've hit this world championship, like what are your goals right now for the sport? Like, are you still actively competing? Like, do you still want to keep going forward, or like what does that look like for you right now?
Yeah, so at the world championship, I got my brown belt, which is really, really special. And then and 2 weeks before the championship, I hurt my shoulder, and then I continued to fight through it. Just because it was such a big competition, I wasn't gonna not fight. And then like 3 weeks after the competition, after Worlds, I had a super fight coming up, which was really exciting. And I was training and I got caught in a pretty tough submission. I couldn't tap quick enough to, and I tore my labrum. So I'm just coming back from an injury. And then 2 weeks ago, I gave myself a concussion on the mat. So it's been quite tough. Like I just got back to training and then I got a concussion. So I'm recovering from that right now. But I do see myself, after recovering from this concussion, to be back on the mats the way that I want to, competing. And with the time off, I feel like it was God saying, like, you have other things to focus on, which is like my business and my coaching aspect. And, jiu-jitsu isn't my professional career. You know, it's a big part of my identity and who I am and what I love to do. But there's also other aspects of my life that I feel like when you have an injury, that gives you a time to rest and a time to see other things for, that need your attention, because jujitsu and competing takes a lot of time, energy, money, and focus. So
Absolutely. And that's like really important that you mentioned that. I like to tell everybody that too. It's like, you're not just a jujitsu athlete. Like I'm not just
yeah,
a boxing athlete. Like I am an athlete, but I also like have other things. Like, and I think that that's where a lot of athletes, when they eventually retire, they go into this deep depression because they've had themselves consumed thinking like that's just what they are. It's just that, either a basketball player, a boxer, or whatever. So that's really important that like you see how this time, I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason as well. So
mm-hmm.
like these injuries are like you said, you take that time to take all the other aspects of your life and focus on them too. Better than like sitting there and thinking like, oh my God, I can't be training right now, and then obsessing about it and obsessing about it. But you're actually using that time to focus on these other amazing talents and gifts that you have going on for you in your life. Super
Yeah.
exciting.
And any time that I think an injury is present, it's so challenging mentally and physically, because it takes something away that you love so much, whether that be like your friends and the time and it's not just about training, but it's the routine of it, and it's the validation you give yourself, and your friends, and the sweat, and that push, so it also comes down to, yeah, like you said, taking the time off, seeing things for what it is. But it also, that's training for your mind, to see yourself outside of just being a jujitsu athlete, and creating an identity around other things, that people don't go into that deep depression after they do lose themselves. Or, because when you take my jujitsu away, you take away a big part of my life, and it's always developing yourself outside of that, so.
Absolutely. And like such an important point to make. And, thank you for sharing that. And now moving forward, like, what do you see yourself doing? Let's say, like, once you retire from competing, what do you want to do with all this wealth and knowledge that you have? Like, what do you see yourself doing in the future?
Um, I see myself competing till I'm like 90.
Yeah.
There's there,
Okay.
there are, it's funny because like in jujitsu, like it's called Master 7, which there are people competing at like 70 years
Oh
old, which
my
I think
God.
is so freaking cool. Yeah, of course, there's the time is much less to compete, and it's just for fun. But I see myself just applying everything. Jiu-jitsu will be my life there. Like I'll be training for the rest of my life. There will be when I have a family one day, that will obviously change a little bit for the time being. But just, I think I won't stop. At the level, of course, I'm 32 now, so you can't push yourself to the point where there's no return. So I think that, I don't know. I really don't know, to be honest, like where it's going to take me or where it's going to go, but I know I'll be training the rest of my life.
It's amazing. It's all in the realm of possibilities, right?
Yeah. Like it's just who I am, so I
And I love
don't,
that because I think like you too. I love that. That's why I'm really enjoying this conversation right now, because a lot of things that you're saying, I 100% resonate with it. And it's great. You're always like kind of just staying present, and wherever opportunity opens up, it'll be there and you'll be present. You always show up.
yeah. I think that, even the injuries and the setbacks and the heartbreaks and the relationships, it's all like a part of the process of evolving, inside the sport and inside yourself. Because man, you could go there and some days you get beat by a lower belt, or like you lose, and it's just like, you are constantly fighting your ego day in and day out. And I think that it's such a humbling thing to experience, and something that I think everyone should be doing, because there's not so many times where you get to be humbled every single day. And in jujitsu, you are humbled every single day. You have really great days, and then you have days you just are like, I suck. Why do I even do this? Why do I physically put myself through this?
Yeah, I think that's a I think that's a very common theme in many combat sports, right? Because there's nothing more raw than fighting somebody, whether it be in jujitsu or wrestling or Muay Thai or kickboxing, right? Like there's nothing more raw than just getting right down to the nitty gritty and fighting somebody. And then that's where you really find out who you are. and like what you're afraid of.
Exactly. It's like you and that other person, but it's really you and you.
Exactly. Well, you know what? Like, I really, really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you. I'm so happy that you shared the journeys that you've been through and all the things that you've experienced. It's just a complete wealth of knowledge. And I think that too, sometimes people, when they hear these stories from others, they think, oh, like their situation, they were able to overcome it because they're just this kind of person. I think that people forget that no, everybody has these opportunities in front of them. Everybody is always given the choice. It's just if you're willing to take yourself out of your ego, out of your mind, open your mind and say, I'm going to go for better, or like, I deserve more,
Mhm.
or I'm going to take that risk and try to do something better for myself, that they can open those doors for themselves too in whatever area they're in.
Yeah, and I think it's all about leveraging your shortcomings in life and saying like, what do I suck at? And you go do that.
Yeah.
School was always so hard for me. So I only knew how to fail. I only knew how to keep trying. That's all I ever knew. I never knew what it was like to win. I never knew what it was like to succeed as a child. So that I developed that sense of that drive to keep going and to keep trying to figure it out and problem solve and to just throw myself into situations to try to see if it will like something will happen. Right. And I think when you just, you know, I'm not who I am today because I read a book or because I heard something. It was like I constructed who I am today through like really tough experiences. Like I had a 9-year battle with bulimia. I grew up with a father of home and addiction, you know, multiple learning disabilities. And that's what made me who I am today, you know, and you could choose those things that you're born with and the things that you're faced with to use it to your advantage and to leverage it. It's like I am the way I am today because of those things and because of those things that had made me develop something within myself and to say, wow, I have my health now because I didn't have my health. And that's where it is. That's where it all comes from. And I think that everyone has it within them. And it's a matter of choice. And it's really a matter of wanting it more and seeing yourself and being willing to like look stupid and to look crazy. Like when I went to go do the ayahuasca, no one agreed with me. Like everyone besides my dad, he was like, that's so cool. But like everyone else was like really concerned and everyone else was like really worried I was going to come back and with a shaved head and I've lost my mind. And it was like a matter of being like, this is for me. This is what I'm choosing. And if you have a problem and if you don't agree with it, that's okay. But like, you know, it's like pushing past people's judgments, pushing past what people expect of you, pushing past what the normal is. And you know, you come out on the other side if you have good intentions and if you have a good head on your shoulders. But we're so bombarded with like social media and like expectations and people and relationships and winning gold. And it was like jujitsu was put in my life not to be this multi-world champion, right? It took me 7.5 years to win first place. And through those 7.5 years, what taught me was much more than just that one championship. Like when I won that championship, it was like winning 7.5 years.
That's
Yeah.
very powerful what you just said. That's
Yeah.
super powerful. That's like, that's a whole journey just for one goal. And the goal wasn't the gold. The goal was like that gold was just a reflection of where you finally got yourself to.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I can see, like, I can even see, like, I can see that in you. Oh my God. Like, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with me. And, my hat's off to you. I have tremendous respect for you, and I cannot wait to meet you in person and have more of these conversations. Like, just a wealth of knowledge. And
Thank
I really hope that people are paying attention because you are the prime example of it doesn't matter where you're coming from. You always have the choice to direct your life where you want it to go. You always have that power, the power of choice.
Yeah. You just got to show up.
You just got to show up every day, show up.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank
Thank
you so much.
you.
Do you have anything else that you want to tell anybody?
No, I mean, you could find me at Coach Kate One on Instagram, and I'm going to be launching my new coaching business, which is it's going to be called Phoenix Fit, and it's a
Okay.
Yeah. So when I came back from Peru, I was like, I had this whole other business name. But it was like, after I came back from Peru, everything was much clearer. And it's going to be programs developing your mind through your physical body and focusing more on your mental health and your physical health. That the result of focusing on your mental health, you will get the physical results. And it's all about destroying those parts of you that don't serve you, looking at those questions you don't want to look at, and burning those ashes and then rising again. So I've been working really hard on this program to put something different out there for women and men and kids growing up, that they have something else besides just looking good in life, that they could be something more.
That's going to be an amazing program, and I cannot wait to see you launch it, because that is just, there's nothing out there that I know of that's like that. So I cannot wait to see it. I'm really big fan of what you just said. You work on your mind, your body will follow.
Yeah, we're like so focused, like work on your body, work on your body, work on your body. It's like, no, people like, and a therapist, like Ali, it's great. Like so everyone needs a therapist. I don't know why there's this stigma around therapy is for crazy people. Like everyone is like a little bit crazy. We all have things to work on. We all have traumas. We all have we don't know how to deal with this complex brain of ours. And when you find the right therapist, it's just a game changer. It's a coach for your mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know I was so reluctant myself to like seek out a therapist for so many years. And I had, many people that were close to me say, like, maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Like, I got, my sport, and I was very like, I don't need it. I don't need it. And I didn't want to put the money into it. And I thought, like, well, here I am putting so much money into miscellaneous things. So
Yeah.
can I invest into myself, like my mental health? And actually getting out of a toxic relationship, I realized, like, no, I need to, because I'm a culprit too for a lot of toxic behaviors. And I said, well, I need to work on that. So I seeked out a therapist, and oh my gosh, it's changed my life this past year. And I keep going, I keep rolling, I keep meeting amazing people like yourself, and then hearing your stories and just understanding, like, I'm completely like, I wish that I listened a little bit more when I was younger and started this journey earlier. But at the end of the day, we're here. Everything happens for a reason. And now I'm here talking to you, listening to your amazing story, and seeing just how something so something so small as people think, just one choice, can
Yeah.
just completely manifest the rest of your life.
Yeah, and it's being willing, to want to change. Everyone wants to change, but then they have these beliefs that they can, or they care what other people think. And I say F it, just F it, and just do it. Pull the trigger, find the therapy that works for you. There's so many different types of therapy out there, between EMDR, DBT is another great therapy. There's other alternative therapies like ketamine and uh, TMS. There's other therapies out there that really help your mental health. And it's not just talk therapy, which talk therapy is great. But I believe, with Phoenix Fit, it's going to be a bit of uh, uh, mental training, but also applying yourself. It's just like,
Yes.
challenge yourself. Like, I didn't develop myself by winning all the time. I developed myself by like continuously showing up and facing the failure. And then you become that person within those circumstances of life. But it's, people don't even have the confidence to set themselves up for something big, because they think so low of themselves, or they're too afraid to go see who they could possibly be. But I say, like, go set yourself up, go fail, go do a podcast, have no one listen. Like, it's just go do something that you're passionate about.
Do something.
Just do something that you're like, that sets you on fire, or like that's going to challenge the things that you believe. And I think through your physical body, you could really do that. That's why I love jujitsu so much, because it challenging yourself like that. Jujitsu just evolves your mind.
World class level right there. World class level. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And so you said that they can find you on, what is your Instagram?
It's Coach Kate One, and then my business will be called Phoenix Fit. It'll be phoenixfit.com. So
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for tuning in. You can find me as well, ScarlettDelgado as in dog O on Instagram, Scarlett Delgado. And if you just go into my link bio, right there, you'll see the Female Fist, where you'll see this website, this episode, and many other amazing episodes that I have with other incredible women, such as Kate Hastings herself. So thank you so much, Kate, for joining us. And join us next week on another episode of The Female Fist.
Thanks, Scarlett.
Thank you.